So Kamala Harris, she wants to tell us that she's from Oakland. She was born in Oakland. She was raised in Montreal. She was raised in Canada. She wasn't even raised in America. And she wants us to believe she had this very humble middle-class background. Both of her parents were PhDs. Her mother was this storied scientist from India who came over, and her father was the first black tenured economics professor at Stanford. I mean, this is not exactly the, working to middle-class roots that she'd like us to believe. There are questions about whether she ever worked at McDonald's. And then on top of all this, we learned this week, Doug, that she started off, she transferred into Howard from her college in Canada. And then she went to University of California, Hastings College of Law in San Francisco. We just found out that she used this, it's called the Legal Education Opportunity Program. And she was part of it. And I believe that means to get in. We had this at my law school, too. A lot of law schools have this, where you're trying to increase your diversity. And by that, I mean people of color. They don't care about working class diversity, et cetera, although they'll say they do. But you're trying to get more minority students in, and they lower the academic standards generally. And then they let those people start the summer before law school starts to give them a head start, to help them out, to give them a little prep on what to expect. And to be honest, if it's anything like my law school, a lot of these people fail out the first year. Because they shouldn't have been at this law school. They should have been at another law school that, if any, that matches up better with their skill set. But she took advantage of this, and she would have had to document her disadvantaged educational, economic, social, or physical background, including a personal essay detailing the adversity she had encountered. So I don't know what she did to get in, but she used this. She used this, obviously, to get into law school. She failed her bar exam. This is not an impressive record for someone who wants to be president, Doug. This has got Harriet Miers vibes to me. The woman who was such a disaster, George W. Bush had to withdraw her name as a Supreme Court nominee.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything, Megyn, about her record that is particularly impressive. And I think more generally, what I see in the polls is that voters are beginning to understand that there's really no there with Kamala Harris, whether it be her record as a law student, as a lawyer, as a prosecutor, as an attorney general. There doesn't appear to be any overarching argument she can make other than I'm the same as Joe Biden, and whatever positions I've taken that are unpopular, I'm only too happy to alter to fit the political climate. So what I see, Megyn, is a problem that goes beyond integrity to inauthenticity, which I think, as Election Day approaches, is actually the larger issue that she faces, because voters are seeing that there's no record, there's no agenda for the future, and there's no sense of character about her that gives people real confidence.
Yes. I mean, all of this background dovetails perfectly with what we've been seeing from her. On this show, we pay very close attention to the remarks she makes publicly since she started speaking to see what we can glean about her, because she has remained somewhat of a mystery. And what we're learning is there is a reason for this empty talk that she gives. There doesn't appear to be more there, Hogan. And I'll tell you what, in getting ready for today, we looked at the 3 town halls she just did. And what we saw was the exact lines that she's been using on the campaign trail thus far, repeated over and over. And sometimes in the same event, she would forget that she'd already given that exact answer in response to an earlier question, and she would just repeat it. I mean, it's almost like to the point where you're wondering if there's a Stepford thing going on, like the machine has malfunctioned. Someone's got to Control-Alt-Delete in there it's got to reboot. It doesn't realize it's already done all this. There's truly there's nothing to connect to. And all of this explains it, because she doesn't have a lifetime of accomplishment. She has a lifetime of being dishonest about her alleged accomplishments, all the way through to congressional testimony, to her book. Now she ascends to these very powerful positions, at least on paper, and she's asked to go run for president. And she can't do it. So what we get is just repeat the line, repeat the line, repeat the line. Here's a sample. Monday, 3 events in 3 different swing states. Take a listen to Kamala Harris in Stop 4.
So I've now, as vice president, met over 150 world leaders, presidents, prime ministers, chancellors, and kings. Many of them multiple times.
We've heard this.
To the point we're on a first name basis.
1,000 times.
I met over 150 world leaders, presidents, prime ministers, chancellors, and kings. Met over 150
world leaders. It's a different event.
Presidents, prime ministers, chancellors, and kings. We have traditionally been able to walk in those rooms, chin up, shoulders back. Chin up, shoulders
back. Heard it 1,000 times.
We walk in, chin up, shoulders back. I have said many times publicly, and I'll say it again, in many, many ways, Donald Trump is an unserious man. I do believe Donald Trump to be an unserious man, and I have said publicly, Donald Trump is an unserious man. The vast majority of us have so much more in common than what separates us. Have so much more in common than what separates us. That the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us. You know, we are an ambitious people. We are aspirational. We have dreams.
Oh, God.
We are an ambitious people. We have aspirations. We have dreams.
Oh, my God. Hogan.
It's brutal. The reason it sounds empty is because it is empty, because she is empty. She offers nothing. Now, do politicians give a lot of the same speeches all of the time? Absolutely. But something Doug hit on, the word I think is so important, is inauthentic.
This isn't even a speech, Hogan. This is a Q&A. Sorry, keep going.
Yes, but these things are rehearsed on their side. Listen, there was that story that came out. She had that like dinner party planned. And so she made her staff sit down with her at a table and even pour wine so she could practice having a dinner party coming up. She could have stood at that McDonald's drive-through counter for a year practicing that and not been able to pull off what Donald Trump did. Of course, these things are staged and set up, but Donald Trump goes in there and he is a billionaire businessman and is comfortable with everybody he's around. He makes them feel like they're the only person in the room. The media is not angry at Donald Trump because that whole thing at McDonald's failed. They're angry at him because it succeeded, and it succeeded showing the difference between someone like Donald Trump and someone like Kamala. You hit on it. It is the Control-Alt-Delete. It's almost Manchurian-ish. She is prepped and pre-designed and pre-programmed to say certain things at certain times. And even though she is given the questions in advance, even though she is given the answers in advance, they're scripted, ready to go, they still don't say anything that would do a single thing to fix the problems she herself created as vice president of the United States. And she looks around like all of these things in her campaign and all of these things in the country are happening to her, but they're happening because of her and her policies and her laziness. Every time I see this.
Okay. All right. So I want to give you an example of some of what we're seeing here. So Doug, you saw that first montage we did. We're being very fair. We're not taking it out of context. We watch the whole things. We watch all 3 of the town halls. We've been watching everything she does. This audience is far more familiar with Kamala Harris's speech than they want to be. This is her answering 2 different questions in Pennsylvania and Michigan. Take a listen to Top 5.
How do you propose to help bridge this gap, making both child and elder care more affordable for hardworking families?
You are a part of what we call the sandwich generation. I actually bring a personal experience to it as well. I took care of my mother when she was sick. And that work is the work of trying to cook something that they feel like eating.
What would you say to people like myself who are part of these traditionally conservative communities who want to move forward but are feeling the pressures of the political divide?
I actually, personal story, I took care of my mother when she was sick. It's about trying to cook something they feel like eating.
Oh my God. That second question had nothing to do with the sandwich generation or taking care of your mother. And once again, how inane is it's about cooking something they want to eat. Like, Doug, there's nothing to hold on to. As a Democrat, as a lifelong Democrat, this is the weakest Democrat politician they've ever presented us to consider for president.
Well, it's why they wanted as short a campaign as possible, because the less time people have and had to get to know her, the better she did. She is in what I think is a decline. It's not precipitous, Megyn, but as people see that there, as I said before, there's no substance, increasingly they're either moving to undecided, some numbers are moving to Trump, and I would say to you and to Hogan, if Trump were able to focus more on the bread and butter issues that people care about and talk about the specifics of his agenda going forward, those voters who are now getting somewhat dismayed with Kamala Harris will have a reason to vote for Trump. Trump, as of yet, has not closed the sale, which is why, despite a very narrow lead, the race is still too close to call.
4 years of crushing interest rates, runaway inflation, and reckless government spending. And who is paying the price? You. You might have bills stacking up, debt collectors on your back. You might be barely able to keep food on the table. Done with Debt can be a way out. They have developed new aggressive strategies designed to get you out of debt permanently without bankruptcy or loans. Done with Debt stands between you and your bill collectors. They can go head to head with these guys, getting your balances reduced, interest rates slashed, and penalties stopped. They create a plan to end your debt fast and put more cash in your pocket every month. And right now, Done with Debt is accepting new clients. But you do need to act fast. Some credit relief programs expire. Before you even make another payment, consider a visit to donewithdebt.com or call 1-888-322-1054 right now. 1-888-322-1054. Speak with one of their debt relief strategists for free by going to donewithdebt.com, donewithdebt.com. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.